Valentina stood at the bus stop, her heart racing as she clutched the worn strap of her canvas bag. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the pavement. Despite the warmth of the day, a chill ran down her spine. She glanced at her watch, the gold hands ticking away, reminding her of the relentless march of time. Today, like many days before, she had a full schedule ahead. Tending to tables at the cafe in the morning, followed by her shift at Isabel's opulent mansion in the evening. Each job was a stepping stone, a means to support her family and pursue the dreams she held close to her heart. Her thoughts drifted to her mother, who worked tirelessly at home, battling her own set of worries. Valentina often found herself reflecting on the sacrifices her family had made for her to have a shot at a better life. Just a little longer, she whispered to herself, the mantra serving as both a promise and a reminder of her goal, to rise above her circumstances. As the bus approached, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for another day. The clattering of the doors opening felt like an invitation to a world where hope and despair coexisted. She boarded, found a seat, and watched as the city blurred past her window. The contrasting images of wealth and poverty played out like a vivid film reel, the sleek cars of the affluent zooming by, while families crowded around street vendors, trying to make ends meet. Valentina's heart ached for those who struggled, reminding her of her own journey. Arriving at the cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, a comforting embrace amid the chaos. She greeted her colleagues with a warm smile, her friendly nature a beacon of light in the bustling environment. "Good morning, everyone," she chimed, her voice bright against the backdrop of clinking dishes and chatter. The cafe was a second home, a place where she felt appreciated for her hard work. "Hey, Val, can you help me with these tables?" called Sophia, a fellow waitress, her hands full of menus and napkins. "Of course," Valentina replied, her heart swelling with a sense of camaraderie. Working alongside her colleagues made the long hours bearable, and they often shared laughter amidst the rush. She quickly moved to assist Sophia, deftly balancing orders and ensuring each customer felt valued. As the sun reached its zenith, Valentina's thoughts drifted again to her evening shift at Isabel's mansion. The grandeur of the estate was a world away from her modest upbringing. She recalled her first day there, the awe she felt stepping into the lavish living room, adorned with ornate chandeliers and expensive art pieces. It had been a dream come true, an opportunity to learn and grow in a different environment. Later that afternoon, Valentina found herself in the staff kitchen, preparing for the evening's event. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked pastries, and the clatter of pots and pans filled the space with a familiar rhythm. "Valentina, could you pass me those hors d'oeuvres?" called out Marco, the head chef, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Sure, Marco," she replied, her movements fluid as she reached for the tray. She took pride in her work, always eager to lend a hand, and her dedication had earned her the respect of her colleagues. As the clock inched closer to the party's start time, Valentina felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Isabel, her boss, was known for hosting extravagant events, and tonight promised to be no different. She admired Isabel from afar, a woman whose elegance and confidence commanded attention. Yet there were moments when Valentina sensed an underlying tension beneath Isabel's polished exterior, a flicker of something darker, hidden behind her captivating smile. The evening unfolded like a grand performance, with guests arriving in flowing gowns and tailored suits. Valentina moved gracefully through the crowd, serving drinks and chatting with the attendees. Laughter and music filled the air, a cacophony of joy and celebration. For a moment, she felt like she belonged to this world, a fleeting illusion of grandeur. "Valentina, come here," Isabel beckoned, her voice cutting through the din. Valentina approached, her heart racing. Isabel stood by the bar, a glass of champagne in hand, her presence magnetic. "I need you to keep an eye on things tonight. You know how these parties can get," she instructed, her tone laced with authority. "Of course, Isabel," Valentina replied, trying to mask her nervousness. She nodded enthusiastically, wanting to prove herself worthy of the trust placed in her. As the night progressed, Valentina found herself caught in the whirlwind of conversations, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. She moved between groups, serving canapés and refilling drinks, her heart swelling each time a guest complimented her professionalism. Yet, amid the revelry, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It was during one of these moments, as Valentina passed by a group of guests admiring the decor, that the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A gasp broke through the laughter, drawing her attention. Isabel's voice rose above the chatter, sharp and accusatory. "Someone has stolen my necklace," she exclaimed, her eyes scanning the crowd frantically. Valentina froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward Isabel, who stood at the center, a whirlwind of fury and indignation. "I had it just moments ago, it's gone," she cried, her voice trembling with urgency. "Isabel, are you sure?" one of the guests ventured, concern etched on her face. "Yes, I had it when I arrived. It was a family heirloom and I know it was in the jewelry box." Isabel's voice trembled with emotion, her composure cracking. Valentina's breath caught in her throat as she watched the scene unfold. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach, a premonition of what was to come. Isabel's gaze darted around the room, and in an instant, it landed on Valentina. There, it was her. Valentina must have taken it. Isabel's voice rang out, slicing through the tension like a knife. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Valentina's heart sank as gasps erupted from the guests. The world around her blurred, and she felt the heat of humiliation wash over her. "What? No, I would never," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The shock of the accusation left her disoriented, her mind racing to comprehend the turn of events. Isabel's eyes narrowed, her expression a mixture of anger and desperation. "I trusted you, Valentina. You were the last to handle my things. You must have taken it." The words felt like daggers, each one piercing deeper than the last. Valentina stood frozen, disbelief coursing through her veins. She could hear murmurs of doubt ripple through the crowd, the weight of Isabel's words casting shadows over her character. "No, please, you have to believe me. I would never steal from you," she pleaded, her voice breaking. But the room had already begun to shift. Whispers filled the air, and Valentina felt the walls closing in around her. She could see the judgment in the eyes of her colleagues, the flicker of doubt in their expressions. The very foundation of her world, built on hard work and integrity, was crumbling before her eyes. As Isabel continued to press her case, Valentina's mind raced. How had this happened? How had the woman she admired turned so quickly against her? She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and in that moment, her dreams for a better life seemed to slip further and further away. The party she had once felt a part of had transformed into a nightmare, and all she could do was stand there reeling from the accusations that threatened to upend everything she had fought for. Valentina stood in the corner of the opulent kitchen, her heart racing as she surveyed the aftermath of Isabel's accusation. The once cheerful atmosphere had soured, and the murmurs among her colleagues were like daggers piercing through the air. She could feel their eyes on her, some filled with sympathy, others laced with doubt. Each whispered word felt like a weight on her chest, compressing the very breath from her lungs. "Did you really take it?" whispered Carla, one of her closest friends, her voice barely audible over the clanking of silverware and the distant laughter of the remaining guests. Valentina's heart sank at the question. "No, I would never," she exclaimed, her voice a blend of anger and desperation. "You know me, Carla. I've worked my ass off in this place, and I would never betray that trust." Carla's expression shifted, uncertainty clouding her features. "But Isabel, she's convinced. She's not the type to make wild accusations." The words hung heavy between them, and Valentina felt the sting of betrayal. "Isabel didn't even give me a chance to explain." Valentina's voice broke, her frustration spilling over. "She humiliated me in front of everyone, and now I'm the thief." The tears that had threatened to spill since the moment of accusation finally began to fall, streaking down her cheeks. "Valentina, I believe you," Carla said softly, stepping closer. "But you know how people are. They'll take Isabel's word over yours. She's powerful, and she knows how to manipulate the situation." The realization struck Valentina like a cold wave. In this world of wealth and privilege, truth often took a back seat to social standing. As whispers continued to spread, She felt the walls of isolation closing in around her. "Listen," Carla said, her voice growing firmer. "You need to talk to the others. If we all stand together—" "Together?" Valentina interrupted, her frustration boiling over. "Do you really think they'll rally behind me after what Isabel said? They're scared of her. They've seen what she can do." She glanced around the kitchen, spotting faces she had once considered friends, now turned indifferent, their gazes averted. "Valentina, you can't give up," Carla urged, her eyes pleading. "You have to fight this." "I don't know how," Valentina admitted, her voice breaking once more. "I've never been in a situation like this. I just wanted to make a living, to support my family. Now, I'm branded a thief." As the minutes dragged on, Valentina's resolve began to crumble. She was exhausted, emotionally drained from the evening's events. The thought of having to confront her colleagues, to plead her innocence, felt insurmountable. But deep down, she knew she had to try. "Okay," Valentina said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'll talk to them, but I can't promise anything." "Just remember," Carla said, squeezing her hand, "you're not alone. I'm here for you no matter what." With a deep breath, Valentina stepped into the main area of the mansion, where the remaining guests milled about, drinks in hand and laughter echoing from the corners. She felt like an outsider in her own life, the atmosphere suffocating. Each smile seemed to mock her, each laugh a reminder of her new reality. "Valentina!" a voice called. It was Mia, another colleague, her expression a mixture of concern and pity. "Are you okay? We heard what happened. It's terrible." Valentina forced a smile, but it felt brittle on her lips. "I'm fine, Mia. Just dealing with the fallout." "Do you want to talk about it?" Mia offered, her tone gentle, but Valentina could see the hesitance in her eyes. She was torn, wanting to help but afraid of the repercussions. "No, I don't think that will help. I need to clear my name." Valentina's voice was steady, but inside she was crumbling. The crowd around them began to murmur, and Valentina felt the weight of their scrutiny. She took a step forward, gathering her courage. "Can everyone listen for a moment?" she called out, her voice cutting through the din. A few heads turned and a hush fell over the group. Isabel's absence loomed large, but Valentina knew she had to speak. "I want to address the accusation made against me. I did not steal the necklace. I've worked here for a long time, and I have always been honest and dedicated. I would never betray that trust." "Isabel wouldn't just accuse you without reason," someone shouted from the back, and murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. "I understand that," Valentina replied, her heart pounding. "But please think for yourselves. I've always treated you all with respect. I wouldn't have stolen from Isabel, and I certainly wouldn't risk everything I've worked for. I'm simply asking for your support and understanding." Silence enveloped the room as her words hung in the air, but it was soon broken by the sound of a glass clinking. Isabel had entered the room, a confident smile plastered on her face, as if the earlier chaos had never happened. The guests gravitated towards her, eager to bask in her presence. "Is there a problem here?" Isabel asked, her tone dripping with feigned innocence. "I hope there isn't any lingering doubt about our dear Valentina." Her eyes flicked to Valentina, a glimmer of malice in their depths. Valentina's heart sank further. "Isabel, all I'm asking for is a chance to explain—" "Explain?" Isabel interrupted, her laugh echoing through the space. "What's there to explain? The necklace is gone and you were the last one seen near it. It's simple logic, darling." The guests shifted uncomfortably, glancing between Valentina and Isabel. The air thickened with tension, and Valentina felt as though the walls were closing in. "Please, everyone," Valentina implored, desperation creeping into her voice. "Think about what you're being told. Don't let fear dictate your judgment." But Isabel stepped closer, her presence overpowering. "Valentina, sweetie, you should know your place. This is my home, and I will not tolerate anyone undermining my authority." Valentina's resolve faltered. She could feel the weight of Isabel's words, heavy and suffocating. The room was silent, the atmosphere charged with uncertainty. As the evening wore on, Valentina felt more isolated than ever. She left the gathering, retreating to the quiet of the mansion's gardens, where the moonlight cast a gentle glow over the flowers. She needed to think. Sitting on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, Valentina closed her eyes, allowing the night air to envelop her. She could hear the distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifting from inside the mansion. They were celebrating, oblivious to her turmoil. Then she caught snippets of conversation as two guests wandered nearby, their voices low but audible. "Did you hear about Isabel's past?" one woman said, her tone conspiratorial. "I heard she came from nothing, just like Valentina." "Really?" the other replied, incredulous. "I thought she was always wealthy. What happened?" "There are whispers about her family. It's not pretty," the first woman continued, glancing around as if to ensure they weren't overheard. "She's built this life on secrets and lies." Valentina's heart raced at the mention of Isabel's past. Could it be that there was more to Isabel than she had ever known? The revelation sparked a flicker of hope within her, a hint that perhaps the narrative wasn't as straightforward as it seemed. As the two women moved on, Valentina remained seated, the weight of their words settling in her mind. She felt a mix of fear and intrigue. Could she uncover the truth about Isabel? What if Isabel's own struggles were tied to her current predicament? In that moment, Valentina realized that she had a choice to make. She could either allow Isabel's power to crush her spirit, or she could rise up, determined to reclaim her dignity. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time since the accusation, she felt a flicker of determination ignite within her. She would not be defined by Isabel's judgment, but rather by her own courage to seek the truth. With that resolve, Valentina stood up, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She was no longer just a victim in this story. She was determined to become an active participant, gripping the threads of her fate in her own hands. Valentina sat at her small kitchen table, the dim light casting shadows on the walls adorned with family photos. The smell of burnt toast lingered in the air, a stark reminder of her distracted state. She had been replaying Isabel's accusation over and over in her mind, each time feeling the sting of humiliation wash over her anew. The once vibrant dreams she held were overshadowed by a growing sense of despair. How could she possibly clear her name when her boss held all the power? Determined to reclaim her dignity, Valentina knew she had to take action. With a deep breath, she grabbed her phone and began searching for former employees of Isabel's. The digital landscape was daunting, but she was fueled by the fire of injustice that had ignited within her. She dialed the number of a woman named Clara, who had left Isabel's employ a few months ago. After a few rings, a voice answered. "Hello?" "Hi, Clara. This is Valentina. I work for Isabel." "I hope I'm not bothering you," she started, her voice wavering slightly. "Oh, Valentina, I remember you. What's going on?" Clara replied, her tone friendly but curious. I need your help. There's been an accusation against me, and I'm trying to understand more about Isabel. I thought maybe you could share your experiences working there." Clara hesitated for a moment before responding, "I can't say I'm surprised. Isabel has a way of making her employees feel small. What do you want to know?" "I need to know about her past, how she became the person she is. I think there's more to her story, and I want to understand," Valentina explained, her heart racing. Clara sighed, a hint of empathy in her voice. "Isabel wasn't always like this. She had her struggles, you know. When I worked there, I heard whispers about her family's financial troubles and how she clawed her way up. But the higher she climbed, the more ruthless she became. It's like she forgot where she came from." "Thank you, Clara. That helps a lot," Valentina said, feeling a flicker of hope. She hung up, her mind racing with possibilities. If Isabel had once struggled, perhaps there was a chance for understanding. She needed to investigate further. Over the next few days, Valentina reached out to more former employees, piecing together fragments of Isabel's life story. Many spoke of a young woman who had once been shy and uncertain, burdened by the weight of her family's expectations. Valentina learned that Isabel had once been a waitress in a bustling downtown cafe, working long hours to support her dreams of a better life. The transition from that life to the opulent mansion was steep, and with it came a transformation that Valentina now began to understand. One evening, she sat in her modest living room, surrounded by notebooks filled with notes and names. Her phone buzzed with a message from another former employee, Mia. "I heard you're looking into Isabel's past. Meet me at the cafe tomorrow. I have stories to share." Valentina's heart raced as she prepared for the meeting. She arrived at the cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods enveloping her. Mia was already seated at a corner table, her expression serious. "Thanks for meeting me," Mia said, glancing around as if wary of being overheard. "I don't want to cause trouble, but I think you deserve to know the truth." Valentina leaned in, eager to listen. "What do you know?" Mia hesitated, her gaze dropping to her coffee cup. Isabel lost her mother when she was a teenager. It hit her hard. They were poor, and her mother worked multiple jobs to keep them afloat. After the death, Isabel felt abandoned and alone. She vowed to never be in that position again, and that's when she started changing. Valentina felt a pang of empathy. That must have been devastating for her. It was, but instead of healing, it turned into a hunger for power. She became cold, dismissive of anyone she saw as a threat. And if she feels threatened, well, you saw what happened at the party, Mia explained, her voice dropping to a whisper. Valentina nodded, the pieces falling into place. Isabel's past was marked by pain, but it had also shaped her into the woman who now wielded power with an iron fist. "Thank you, Mia. This helps me understand her better, but it still doesn't excuse what she did to me," Valentina said, her determination hardening. As days turned into weeks, Valentina continued her investigation into the missing necklace. She had learned from multiple sources that it was not just a piece of jewelry, it was deeply tied to Isabel's past. It had belonged to her mother, a gift that represented both love and loss. The more Valentina discovered, the more complex the narrative became. Isabel's life was a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, grief, and the choices that had led her to where she was now. One rainy afternoon, Valentina sat in her living room, contemplating her next move. She had gathered enough information to confront Isabel, but she felt a knot in her stomach at the thought of it. Just then, her phone rang. It was Clara again. "Valentina, I've been thinking about our conversation. I want to help you," Clara said, her voice filled with urgency. "There's a charity event at the mansion next week, and I can get you in. You could confront Isabel in front of others, maybe even gather support." Valentina's heart raced at the idea. "Are you sure? I don't want to put you in a difficult position." "I'm sure. What she did to you isn't right, and you deserve to fight back. I'll text you the details," Clara replied, her resolve evident. As the day of the charity event approached, Valentina felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. She put on the best dress she owned, a simple yet elegant piece that made her feel confident. As she arrived at the mansion, the grandeur of the place overwhelmed her. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, and laughter echoed through the halls. Clara greeted her at the entrance, guiding her through the crowd. "Just remember, you're not alone. We're all behind you," she whispered, squeezing Valentina's hand for reassurance. With each step deeper into the mansion, Valentina felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she also felt the strength of those who believed in her. Finally, she spotted Isabel across the room, laughing with a group of guests. The sight ignited a fire within Valentina, and she steeled herself for what was to come. Gathering her courage, Valentina approached Isabel. The laughter died down as the crowd noticed her presence, their eyes shifting between the two women. "Isabel, can we talk?" Valentina's voice was steady, surprising even herself. Isabel turned, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "What do you want, Valentina? I'm busy." "I want to talk about the necklace and the accusations you made against me," Valentina said, her heart pounding. "I know there's more to this story than what you've shared." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Isabel's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Valentina thought she might back down. But then Isabel crossed her arms, her posture defensive. "I don't know what you think you've uncovered, but I don't have time for your games." "It's not a game, Isabel. I've spoken to your former employees. I know about your past, your mother's necklace. It doesn't justify what you did to me, but it gives context to your actions," Valentina replied, her voice unwavering. A flicker of something, fear perhaps, crossed Isabel's face. For a brief moment, Valentina saw a glimpse of the woman beneath the facade of power and control. But then Isabel's mask snapped back into place. "You don't know anything about me," Isabel hissed, her tone sharp. "You're just a girl trying to play in a world you don't understand." Valentina took a deep breath, her heart racing. "I may not understand your world, but I know what it feels like to be accused unjustly. I know what it's like to be underestimated." The crowd watched intently, the tension thickening in the air. Clara and a few other colleagues stood nearby, their eyes filled with encouragement. Valentina could hear their whispers of support, bolstering her confidence. "Isabel, I'm not here to attack you, I want to understand. Maybe if we talk about this, we can find a way forward," Valentina said, her voice softer now. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Isabel's face, but she quickly masked it with defiance. "You think you can just waltz in here and change everything? You have no idea how hard I've worked for what I have." Valentina felt a pang of empathy. "I know you've worked hard, but at what cost? You've hurt people along the way, and it's time to confront that." Isabel's eyes hardened, but Valentina stood her ground. The room remained silent, the weight of their confrontation hanging in the air. In that moment, Valentina realized that this was not just about the necklace. It was about two women grappling with their pasts, their choices, and the possibility of redemption. As the tension lingered, Valentina took a step back, feeling the eyes of her colleagues on her. She had spoken her truth, and now it was Isabel's turn to respond. In that moment, both women stood at a crossroads, their lives intertwined in ways they had yet. Valentina stood at the threshold of Isabel's lavish office, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The opulent decor that once seemed glamorous now felt suffocating. The rich mahogany desk, the plush oversized chairs, and the shimmering chandelier overhead all bore witness to the deep divide between them. She took a breath, steeling herself for the confrontation ahead. Today she would demand answers. "Isabel," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil roiling inside her, "I need to talk to you." Isabel looked up from her meticulously organized files, her expression shifting from surprise to irritation. "Valentina, can't this wait? I have important matters to attend to." "No, it can't wait," Valentina pressed, her determination overriding her fear. "I deserve an explanation for what happened at the party. You accused me of stealing that necklace in front of everyone. How could you?" Isabel leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms defensively. "You should understand how these situations can appear. You were the last one seen near the jewelry case." Valentina's heart raced, but she refused to back down. "I didn't take it. I would never do something like that. You know me, Isabel. I work hard for every penny I earn." Isabel's gaze hardened, but Valentina saw a flicker of something deeper, an unease, perhaps a hint of guilt. "You don't understand," Isabel said, her voice lowering. "This isn't just about you. There are things in my past that you wouldn't comprehend." "Then help me understand," Valentina urged, taking a step closer. "Why would you choose to ruin my life over something that could easily be resolved? Just tell me what's going on." Isabel's defenses seemed to falter for a moment. She looked away, her fingers tapping nervously on the desk. "You think it's that simple? That I'm just some villain in your story?" "I don't think you're a villain," Valentina replied, her tone softening. "I think you're scared. But I need you to be honest with me. What really happened?" With a heavy sigh, Isabel finally relented, the walls around her beginning to crumble. "Fine," she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. "I grew up in a world where trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. People betrayed me, Valentina. Friends, family, everyone I thought I could rely on. When I built this life, I did it with the belief that I had to be stronger than anyone else. I had to protect what was mine at all costs." Valentina felt a pang of empathy for the woman before her, realizing that Isabel's ruthlessness was rooted in her own pain. "But that doesn't justify what you did to me. You put your fears onto me, and now I'm the one suffering." Isabel's expression darkened again, her eyes narrowing. "You don't know what it's like to lose everything, to have people turn their backs on you. The necklace was a gift from my mother, a reminder of everything I've sacrificed. When it went missing, I panicked. I thought I had to act fast. By accusing me," Valentina's voice was a mix of incredulity and hurt. "You know how hard I've worked to build my reputation. You've seen me struggle. You've seen me work late into the night. I am not a thief." For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Valentina could see the conflict raging within Isabel, a battle between the woman she had become and the girl she once was. Finally, Isabel spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know what else to do." At that moment, Valentina realized that beneath Isabel's armor was a woman grappling with her own demons. "You're not the only one who has faced hardship, Isabel. I've had my share of struggles too, but that doesn't mean we should hurt each other." Isabel's eyes softened, and for the first time, Valentina saw a glimmer of vulnerability. "You're right. I've let my past dictate my present, and it's affecting everyone around me. But you have to understand, I can't let anyone threaten what I've built. It's all I have left." Just then, the door swung open, interrupting their conversation. Several colleagues entered, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. They could feel the tension in the air, and Valentina could see the wheels turning in their minds. Whispers began to circulate as they caught snippets of the heated conversation. "Is everything all right?" one of her co-workers asked tentatively, glancing between Valentina and Isabel. Valentina seized the opportunity, her heart racing. "No, it's not all right. Isabel accused me of stealing her necklace at the party, and I'm here to get the truth." The room fell silent, and Valentina's colleagues exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from uncertainty to support. One of them, Maria, stepped forward. "Valentina has worked hard, and we all know her character. We can't let Isabel's accusations stand without question." Isabel's expression darkened again, and she quickly regained her composure. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. This is my reputation at stake." "Your reputation?" Valentina exclaimed, frustration spilling over. "What about mine? You've already tarnished it. We're not your pawns, Isabel. We're your team. We deserve respect." As the support from her colleagues strengthened, Isabel's facade began to crack. Valentina could see the realization dawning on her. This was not just about her. The atmosphere in the room shifted and the tide was turning. "I didn't mean for things to go this far," Isabel admitted, her voice trembling as she braced against her desk. "I just wanted to protect what I have." "But at what cost?" Valentina challenged, her heart pounding. "You can't just throw someone under the bus to save yourself. If anything, you're risking everything you've built by refusing to confront this." Isabel's face paled as she looked at her colleagues, who stood firm beside Valentina. The support she once took for granted was now being questioned. The power dynamic had shifted, and Valentina could feel the strength of solidarity washing over her. "Maybe I've made mistakes," Isabel finally said, her voice cracking. "But I can't lose my position, I can't." Valentina took a step forward, her heart racing. "You can change this. You can choose to do the right thing. This is your chance to reclaim your integrity." The room was thick with tension as Isabel wrestled with the weight of her choices. Valentina's colleagues remained steadfast, their loyalty clear. They stood together, a united front against the injustices that had unfolded. "Perhaps I have been wrong," Isabel murmured, her voice barely audible. "But it's hard to admit that, to face the truth." In that moment, Valentina's heart swelled with a mixture of hope and determination. She realized that Isabel's journey could mirror her own, a struggle for redemption, a chance to rewrite their fates. But the battle was far from over. Isabel's expression hardened once more as she glanced at the door, her voice laced with desperation. "You don't understand. If I back down now, I'll lose everything." "We're not asking you to lose everything," Maria interjected, her tone firm yet compassionate. "We're asking you to be accountable. You can make this right." As Valentina looked around the room, she felt a surge of empowerment coursing through her. The tides had turned. They were no longer just victims of circumstance. Together, they could confront the injustices that had plagued them and the toxic power dynamics that had driven them apart. Isabel's gaze flickered from Valentina to her colleagues, uncertainty etched across her features. "What do you want from me?" "Start by acknowledging the truth," Valentina replied, her voice steady. "Take responsibility for your actions. We can work together to rebuild trust." Isabel's breath hitched as the weight of the moment settled over them. Valentina could see the internal struggle reflected in her eyes. Would she choose to fight for her dignity, or would she continue down the path of manipulation and deceit? As the silence stretched, Valentina waited, her heart pounding in anticipation. The future of their lives hung in the balance, and the consequences of this moment would define their paths moving forward. Would Isabel embrace the chance for redemption, or would she cling to the shadows of her past? The answer lingered in the air, suspended between hope and despair, waiting to unfold. Valentina sat at a small, cluttered table in her modest apartment, surrounded by stacks of papers and a laptop that flickered with the glow of a document she had been tirelessly revising. The walls were lined with photographs of her family and friends, each image a reminder of the life she was fighting to uphold. Her heart raced as she reviewed the details of her case against Isabel. The accusations had shattered her world, but now, with the support of her colleagues and the determination to reclaim her dignity, she was ready to fight back. "Are you sure about this, Val?" Maria, one of her closest friends from work, asked softly as she rifled through a folder filled with statements from their colleagues. "This is going to be tough. Isabel has a lot of power." Valentina looked up, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. "I have to do this, Maria. If I don't stand up for myself, who will? I can't let her get away with what she did to me." Maria nodded, though her brow furrowed with concern. "Just remember, we're all behind you. We believe in you." The door to the apartment creaked open, and Valentina's younger brother, Lucas, stepped inside with a stack of flyers. "Hey, Val, I printed those out for the fundraiser, but, is everything okay? You look stressed." Valentina forced a smile, her heart aching at the thought of burdening him with her troubles. "Just preparing for the hearing, Lucas. It's going to be a big day." "Are you going to be okay?" he asked, genuine worry etched across his face. "I wish I could help more." "You already do just by being here," she replied, ruffling his hair affectionately. "I'm just gathering everything I can to prove I'm innocent. I won't let her destroy my life." As the days passed, Valentina immersed herself in preparation. She spent late nights poring over documents, gathering testimonies from her colleagues, and even reaching out to former employees of Isabel. Each interaction brought her closer to the truth, yet it also weighed heavily on her heart. The emotional toll was beginning to show. Her eyes were sunken, and her laughter felt distant. On the day of the court hearing, Valentina dressed meticulously. She chose a simple but elegant navy dress, hoping it would convey both her professionalism and her determination. As she looked in the mirror, she whispered words of encouragement to herself. "You are strong. You deserve this." The courtroom was tense, the air thick with anticipation. Valentina's colleagues filled the benches, their supportive presence giving her strength. Isabel, on the other hand, sat at the plaintiff's table, her demeanor exuding confidence, yet Valentina could see a flicker of unease in her eyes. As the proceedings began, Valentina's attorney, a sharp and seasoned woman named Claire, stood to present their case. "Your Honor, we are here today because my client has been falsely accused of theft by Ms. Isabel, a woman who has manipulated her position of power to deflect blame onto an innocent worker." Isabel's attorney, a suave man with an air of arrogance, rose to counter. "Your Honor, the evidence will show that Ms. Valentina had both the motive and the opportunity to steal the necklace. We will demonstrate that she is not the victim here, but rather a cunning thief." Valentina felt her stomach drop. The words stung, but she steadied herself, reminding herself of the truth she held. She listened as Isabel's attorney painted a picture of Valentina as a desperate woman willing to betray her employer for a fleeting gain. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, and Valentina could see the doubt creeping into the eyes of some of the spectators. Claire, undeterred, proceeded to call witnesses to the stand. Colleagues spoke of Valentina's character, her dedication, and how she had always been trustworthy. Each testimony added weight to Valentina's case, but Isabel remained unfazed, her steely resolve evident as she listened intently, plotting her next move. It was then that Isabel took the stand, her poise unshaken. "I have worked hard to build my reputation. I would never accuse someone without a valid reason," she declared, her voice smooth and authoritative. "Valentina had access to my personal belongings and was seen near the area where the necklace was last seen. Valentina clenched her fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Isabel was twisting the narrative, and the courtroom was hanging on her every word. "I trusted her," Isabel continued, her tone dripping with feigned sorrow. "It hurts me to see someone I employed betray my trust." Valentina's heart raced as she listened to Isabel's performance. This is all a facade, she thought, her mind racing. She's projecting her insecurities onto me. Claire stood to cross-examine Isabel. "You claim to have trusted Ms. Valentina, but isn't it true that you've had issues with other employees before? Is it possible that you are simply looking for someone to blame?" Isabel's composure faltered for a brief moment, revealing a crack in her armor. "That's irrelevant," she snapped, quickly regaining her cool demeanor. "This is about the theft." As the hearing continued, Valentina found herself questioning everything she knew about Isabel. She had seen glimpses of vulnerability in her boss, moments when the mask slipped. Was there more to Isabel's story than mere greed and power? Finally, the moment Valentina had been waiting for arrived. Claire stood and presented a crucial piece of evidence, security footage from the night of the party. The room fell silent as the footage played on a large screen, showing the chaotic scene of the evening. Everyone watched in anticipation, the tension palpable. As the video unfolded, Valentina's heart raced. The footage revealed a figure slipping into the room just before the necklace went missing. Gasps echoed through the courtroom, and Valentina felt a wave of hope wash over her. The truth was about to come to light. With each passing second, the room leaned closer to the screen. The figure was not Valentina, but someone else entirely. Someone who had gone unnoticed in the frenzy of the party. Claire turned to address the courtroom. "As you can see, Your Honor, this footage clearly shows that my client was not involved in the theft. She was never near the necklace, and this footage reveals the true thief." Valentina held her breath, her heart pounding as she saw the truth unfold. Isabel's expression shifted from confidence to disbelief, her carefully crafted facade crumbling. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs of shock, and Valentina could feel the tide turning in her favor. As the footage concluded, Valentina's eyes met Isabel's for the first time since the hearing began. In that moment, she saw not just a powerful woman, but a person who had lost control of her own narrative. The realization struck Valentina deeply. Both of their lives had been shaped by circumstances beyond their control, yet their paths had collided in this moment of reckoning. The courtroom was charged with emotion, and Valentina felt a mix of triumph and compassion. She knew that while she was fighting for her name, Isabel was also a victim of her insecurities and the pressures of her past. With the truth finally emerging, Valentina was ready to reclaim her dignity, ready to confront not just the injustice, but also the complexities of their intertwined fates. The courtroom was a cacophony of gasps and murmurs as the security footage flickered to life on the large screen. Valentina could hardly breathe as she watched the images unfold, her heart racing with a mix of dread and anticipation. The murmur of the audience crescendoed to a roar was almost deafening, drowning out the sound of the video. The camera captured the opulent mansion from the night of the party, the vibrant colors of the decorations, the laughter of guests, and then, in a pivotal moment, a figure slipping into the shadows, the stolen necklace glinting in the soft light. "Order! Order!" The judge's gavel struck the desk with authority, but it took a moment for the chaos to subside. Isabel sat at the defendant's table, her face draining of color as she stared at the screen, the truth unraveling before her. "Is that?" whispered one of the jurors, a middle-aged woman with glasses perched precariously on her nose. "Yes, it is!" Another voice piped up from the audience, recognition dawning in their eyes. "That's... Silence!" The judge barked again, but the damage was done. The footage revealed not only the identity of the real thief, but also the frantic way Isabel had tried to cover up her own insecurities by deflecting blame onto Valentina. The figure on the screen was not Valentina. It was a former employee, someone who had been let go under dubious circumstances. As the video concluded, a heavy silence enveloped the room, and all eyes turned toward Isabel. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, like a suffocating shroud. She had built her empire on the foundation of fear and manipulation, but now it was crumbling before her. Valentina felt a glimmer of hope pierce through her despair, but she also sensed the profound pain that was about to unfold for Isabel. "Your Honor," Valentina's attorney stood, his voice steady. "As you can see, this footage clearly exonerates my client. Not only has she been a victim of a heinous accusation, but this evidence also exposes a deeper truth about the actions of the defendant." Isabel's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she realized the ramifications of the footage. The necklace had been a gift from her late mother, a symbol of acceptance and her struggle with identity. The weight of its loss had haunted her for years, and in a desperate attempt to protect herself, she had projected her insecurities onto Valentina, a young woman who had only ever shown kindness and dedication. The courtroom buzzed with a mixture of sympathy and disdain for Isabel. "She should have known better," someone whispered in the audience. Another voice joined in. "How could she do that to Valentina?" Unable to bear the weight of the accusations any longer, Isabel stood up, her hands trembling. I need to speak," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper, but it commanded the room's attention. The judge nodded, allowing her to proceed. I'm so sorry, Valentina," she began, her voice breaking. "I let my fears and insecurities dictate my actions. I was terrified of losing everything, of being exposed for the fraud I thought I was. I wanted to deflect blame, to hide behind someone else's mistakes. But that someone was you, and I cannot express how deeply regretful I am for what I did." Valentina felt a rush of emotions flood through her. Anger, relief, and a sense of justice intertwined within her as she listened to Isabel's admission. The courtroom fell silent, each person holding their breath, waiting to see how Valentina would respond. "Isabel," Valentina began, her voice steady despite the storm of feelings within her. "I don't understand how you could do that to me. You had the power to stop it. You could have chosen differently. You chose to humiliate me in front of everyone, and it almost destroyed me." "I know," Isabel replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was blinded by my own fears. I thought I could protect myself by hurting you, but it only made everything worse. I see that now. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry." The room was thick with emotion, and Valentina could feel the eyes of the audience piercing through her. She had a choice to make, to accept Isabel's apology and move forward, or to cling to her anger and desire for revenge. "Your actions have consequences, Isabel," Valentina said, her voice firm but compassionate. "I was left to fend for myself. You took away my dignity and my job, but maybe there's a chance for us to learn from this. I want to believe that people can change." The audience was transfixed, witnessing a moment of vulnerability that transcended the courtroom drama. Isabel nodded, the weight of Valentina's words settling heavily on her shoulders. "I want to make it right," Isabel said, her voice raw with emotion. "I'll do anything to help you. I'll ensure you have a job. I'll support your dreams, whatever it takes to show you how sorry I am." Valentina took a deep breath, feeling the tension in her chest begin to ease. It was a moment of clarity for her, a realization that revenge would not heal her wounds. "Let's start by being honest with ourselves and each other," she replied, her tone softening. "I want to move forward, but I need to know that you're truly willing to change." "I am," Isabel promised, her voice steady now. "I've lost so much already. I don't want to lose you too. I want to be better." As the two women stood facing each other in the courtroom, the tension that had once defined their relationship began to dissipate. The journey they had taken was fraught with pain and betrayal, but it had also opened a door to understanding and forgiveness. The judge, who had been quietly observing, cleared his throat. "It seems we have reached an unexpected resolution here today. I commend both of you for your openness. However, the court must still address the legal implications of this case." With a nod from both women, the judge proceeded to dismiss the charges against Valentina, citing the new evidence and the mutual agreement they had reached. The gavel struck once more, signaling the end of the trial, but the beginning of something new for both women. As the courtroom began to empty, Valentina and Isabel stood for a moment longer, the air between them charged with a new understanding. "Thank you for your kindness," Isabel said, her voice quiet but sincere. "Thank you for your honesty," Valentina replied, offering a small smile. "Let's see where this path takes us." As they exited the courtroom, the weight of their past began to lift, replaced by the possibility of a future built on trust and redemption. They walked side by side, two very different women, forever changed by their intertwined fates, ready to face whatever came next together.